what's going on? It's your favorite host, A. Millie, and I'm back with another episode of the Sip and Sit podcast. Now, I know I have been gone for a mighty long time, but I am back, baby. I am back, and I have the pleasure of having on our podcast Miss Felecia Walker. She is like the career destination expert. She knows everything about the workforce. She is the CEO of her company called the Focus Group by Felicia. She is a mom. And of course, I got to put this in here. She is a soror of the most outstanding, dynamic sorority known to everybody. That is Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Welcome my soror Felicia to the show.
Hey, Billy, what's going on? Thank you so much for having me. Oh my goodness. I have been thinking about this since you invited me, and I'm like, okay, I got to get myself together. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, you know what they say, great minds think alike. We crossed the same sorority. So it was just, it was a no-brainer to have you come on and discuss and talk about what you stand for, and of course, talk about the workforce. Everything has been turned upside down since the pandemic. And I know for me, I think this interview will help me out as well because I was displaced during the pandemic. So I want to get into things. Tell me, who is Felecia Walker?
Oh, you know what? I'm a lot of things. I wear a lot of hats. But I am a mom. I have 3 sons, ages 23, 21, and 16. I will be 50 years old, a fabulous 50 years old on May 31st. So
wow. So happy early birthday. And can I say, you do not look like you are getting ready to enter the 50 club.
thank
Like,
you.
I don't know what it must be, the jeans, the juice, honey, because you do not look like you're getting ready to step into 50. But you look good for stepping into 50.
I will take it. Thank you so much. Thank you. But yeah, so I am a business owner. I am a full-time business owner, full-time entrepreneur, and it is not for the weak, let me tell you. But I love what I do. So I am a career and interview coach, and I teach job seekers. I teach mid to high level employees. I teach students, high school and college, how to deliver life-changing job interviews. And when I say life-changing, I mean life-changing. And I call it life-changing because when I went through this process, it was life-changing for me, right? I was laid off from a pharmaceutical job in 2017. It was a 6-figure gig. Wow. And when I lost that job, I ended up taking almost a 60% pay cut, right? Went down to $40,000 a year. And it was tough. I did the job, but it was tough. Paid on Friday, broke by Tuesday. How does that story relate to so many people in the world, right?
It relates to me wholeheartedly because I know.
Right? I know. And so I got to a point where I was like, Felicia, something has to change. And so I hit rock bottom. I hit that broken moment in my life. And that was the moment that changed everything for me. I went back to work. I started doing things differently. I started showing up differently. And I earned a promotion. I doubled my salary. I worked that position for about 9 months. And then I said, you know what, let me get back to what I know. And within 2 months, I returned to the pharmaceutical industry with 2 job offers, and I tripled my salary. So I tripled my salary within 3 years. So here I am. Wow. Everything I did, I put it into this nice little bow, and now I want to help other people do the same. So that's who I am.
And it's like your gift. You hit every nail on the coffin that I have experienced.
Yeah.
And I want to go back, when you say you were laid off in 2017 and from your job, and I know that was another baby for you that you loved. How did you feel when you got laid off, when you got to that point? Because I know it was something that you probably never saw coming.
I did not. I
How
did not.
how was your, your mental health going through that?
Yeah, so I've been on the job 10 years,
Wow.
right? And when I first started that job, I had no idea. Knew nothing about pharmaceutical sales,
Mhm,
but I've been on the job 10 years. My manager was great. And when he had to call me to
mhm,
let me know I was being laid off, he was crying more than I was crying. I'm like,
mm,
hey, it's
mm,
okay, you know.
mhm,
But once the idea set in with me that I no longer have this job,
mhm,
I felt like I was disposable,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
I felt like, what am I going to do? And here's another thing. I had just gotten married.
Wow.
Got married in October of 2016, and then I was laid off in July of 2017. And so that was one of those things like, who am I now? Right? Is this
Mm,
person still going to, believe in me because I no longer bring in that same income that I had before, So it was all kind of stuff going
mhm,
through my mind, right?
mhm,
And when
mhm,
I ended up taking that other position where I took the 60% pay cut, I did that thinking, let me try something different. Let me go into a different industry. And even though it's paying, less money, I'll be okay.
mhm.
Girl, hey, Millie, I was not okay.
I I could feel that because I think I would not be okay as well because I feel like we have similar stories,
Yeah. Yeah.
very similar stories.
Yeah, it was not okay. I did the work and I was good at what I did. Like I'm
Mhm,
good at a
mhm,
lot of things that I do.
mhm,
But when you're talking about taking care of a family, when you're talking about what am I bringing to the table, when you're talking about a child who's playing football, a child who's playing baseball,
mhm,
a child who's about
mhm,
to graduate from high school, it was tough because they
mhm,
needed things, right?
mhm,
And so it just got to a point where I was like, okay, something has to change. Again, that was my mindset.
mhm.
So yeah.
And you really talked about, the family dynamics change. And I think
Mhm.
a lot of people don't realize once you are laid off from a job, whether you're married or have kids,
Right.
the whole family change.
It changes.
It changes. How did your children and your husband deal with, this new lifestyle change that
Right.
has happened? How did they deal with that?
Yeah. So initially, my husband at the time, I'm now divorced, but my husband at the time was supportive initially. But it got to a point where it was like, okay, you need to go get a job,
Mhm,
And with my children, it was different because I was no longer, my children were not his children, if I can just be transparent, if
mhm,
that's okay.
mhm,
And so they were my responsibility. I felt their needs were my responsibility.
mhm,
And because I wasn't making the same amount of money, I wasn't able to provide for them the way that I, was
mhm,
able to before.
mhm,
So when you're talking about buying children the things that they need and the things that they want, I had to kind of back up and say, okay, right now during this season, we can only really get the things that we need, and those things that we want, we're going to have to wait on.
mhm,
It hurt me.
mhm,
That was
mhm,
that was hurtful for me. It was embarrassing as a mom in front of my children. So that's just and but my children rolled with it. They rolled
mhm,
with it, Mama, whatever you need, we got your back. Everything is gonna be okay.
mhm.
So, and as long as I had them, I was good. So
And look at how you are now. You are better than good. Talk
yeah,
to me about you shifting gears
yeah.
and when you got back into the pharmaceutical company. How was that coming from, being laid off and going
Mhm.
through, like you said, hitting rock bottom? And I
Yeah,
think a lot of people, I have felt that and still
yeah,
currently feel like that.
yeah,
The being disposable, being unwanted, and
yeah,
all of your talents and all of your experience you feel has gone down the
yeah,
drain. How was it coming back from a dark place, and feeling disposable
yeah,
back into what you knew?
yeah,
And how did you kind of transition from
yeah,
that?
yeah. That's a great question. So for me, and I don't call it dwelling, but I always remembered those dark moments. There
Mm,
was a time when I took my kids into the grocery store during that time when I wasn't making a lot of money, and I had to put a whole basket of grocery back because I didn't have enough money in the bank.
mm,
Card was declined twice, right?
mm,
So it was always remembering those dark moments, always remembering those moments that freaking broke me down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went back into the pharmaceutical industry, tripling my salary, going back into a six-figure gig, right? It was gratefulness that I felt.
Mm.
It was, okay, this is where I am, and I will not take this for granted again.
Mhm, mhm,
Right?
mm,
That was what it was. It was gratefulness because I remembered what it felt like not to be able to buy the needs and the wants of my kids
mhm,
at the same time. I
mhm,
remembered what I felt like when I had to put that basket of grocery back, at the grocery
mhm,
store and leave it there and go buy hamburgers for my kids off the dollar menu. I
mhm,
remember that. And I
mhm,
feel like that's what it takes to be able to transition, right? And
mhm,
do those things that you have to do is remembering what those tough moments felt like. And as long as
mm,
you remember what those tough moments feel like, then you'll do everything that you can so that you don't have to revisit that tough moment
mm,
again.
mm. And and I love how transparent you are. A lot of people I feel that go through dark moments aren't
Yeah,
as transparent. And
yeah,
I feel like you have a testimony
yeah,
because through all of the darkness
yeah,
and going through that change and that transition, that hurt kind
yeah,
of blossomed
yeah,
into, creating the focus group by Felicia and
yeah,
you aiding women to get that dream job, no matter if they have hit rock bottom, being laid off, that something good will come out of it. And I kind of always say this, when we think we hit rock bottom and we kind of come back, it's like the phoenix rises from the ashes. And
yeah,
that is kind of like what you did. You rose from the ashes, got back to what you knew, and created your own business to help women
yeah,
like you get that dream job.
yeah,
Tell me how did your other baby, like I said, I feel like, as entrepreneurs, we are always pregnant with a passion.
yeah.
Where did this passion of creating the focus group came about?
I'm so glad you asked me this because when I returned back to the pharmaceutical industry, when I got that six-figure gig back and it was back
Mhm,
in my bank and the checks were coming in,
mhm,
probably this is, I mean, no lie, probably 30 days after I returned to that industry, I said, this is not where I'm going to stay. God
mm,
put me here to show me how to do it so that I could show other people.
mm.
I promise you, I said that.
Yes.
I'm sure it's in a journal somewhere. I promise you. But, and so I took that and I took everything that I did to get the job, to return
Mhm,
to the field, to triple my salary,
mhm,
because it's not an easy thing to do.
mm-mm,
I had to do things that other people weren't willing to do. I
mhm,
had to start preparing for my interviews months in
mhm,
advance. I'm talking
mm.
7 months in advance because I
Wow.
knew I had to change my life, right?
Mm,
I started networking with people that no one knew I was networking with. It wasn't
mm,
everybody's business, right? But
mm.
but
That
I
part.
was working in a call center. So,
Mhm,
but I started networking with presidents and vice presidents and directors, but just sending emails, introducing myself, saying, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, but this is where I see myself in the future. How can you help me?
mm,
So when the time came and I was eligible
mhm,
to promote,
mhm,
then they had my back. And so anyway, when I returned back to the pharmaceutical industry and I knew that I wasn't here to stay, I knew that I was there to be able to show other people and give other women, other students a blueprint of how to do it. I started pulling everything that I'd done, all
mm,
emails that I received, all the Atta girls, all the steps that I had taken, and
mhm,
I put it all in one place. And so that's how I got here. People
mm,
started asking for my help. I
mhm,
started helping them for free.
mm,
Their
mhm,
lives started changing. And I was
mhm,
like, hold on. And they were very appreciative of the information that I was sharing with them, and it was working. So
mhm,
I
mhm.
said, you know what? Let me try to take this on the road. And I did. And I stepped away from my job, and here I am today. And I'm loving everything that I
Mhm.
do. Um, and yeah, just trying to change lives one interview at a time.
Wow. I'm just so amazed. Number one, you are giving back to the community.
Well,
But I want to go back
okay.
because it took a lot of guts
Mhm.
and courage and confidence to network with CEOs of 500 Fortune companies
Right.
and other places.
Yeah.
I probably could never do that.
Right.
Meaning, I'm a very, talkative person, but you emailed them introducing yourself. I always feel like, well, if I email, the CEO of a company, I'm gonna be mad if they don't even email me back. And I feel like I just wasted my time. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
do it. So
Right.
how did you have that confidence in yourself to say, you know what? I'm gonna email these CEOs, these people.
Yeah.
How did you get to that point, and where does that confidence come from?
Wow. So again, what I teach is let's marry that broken moment
Mm-hmm.
to how you need to change your life.
Mm-hmm.
So when I would think about, again, not dwelling on it, but thinking about how I felt the night I couldn't pay for the groceries at the grocery store,
Mm-hmm.
oh, there is no one who could stand in my way. I
Mm.
don't care who you were, vice president, president, director, we all put our pants on one leg at a time,
Mm.
right? If you were a female leader at some and you had a family, you had to go home and cook tacos just like me, right?
Yes.
So there was no, I wasn't intimidated because here it is, hey Millie, I had to change my life. I
Mhm.
had no choice. And when you have no choice, then you have to throw your ego out the window. You have to
Mhm.
throw your fear out the window. And there is nothing that should stop you.
Mm.
You have not just want to change your life, but if you have to change your life, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, if after you pay your bills and you only have 20, 25, $50 left and you have nothing to give to your children, you're sad, you're depressed, you're in the bed,
Mhm.
you're not there for your children the way you need
Mhm.
to be.
Mhm.
Man, that's a need. That's a
Mhm.
need to change your life. And when you need
Mhm.
to change your life, there's nothing that should stand in your way,
Mm.
or no one who should stand in your way.
Yes. I love that. I love that. Girl, oh girl, you are really giving me a word that I needed to hear. And that's why I this interview is so needed for people like me. And
Yeah,
of course for people that will watch this, that will come onto this YouTube and watch this.
yeah,
Now, I got the biggest question.
I'm ready.
We go to these interviews,
Mhm,
and I know, for example, me, I've been on interviews in the past before I got my corporate job in media.
mhm.
I was working at a radio station, and I normally have this big ball of personality. Just, I smile, that what we call etiquette.
Right,
And oftentimes I'm just sitting in a interview and I'm smiling. I'm like very cheery. Then on the opposite side, people are just straight
right,
face. And
right,
it's very intimidating because I'm a bubbly person. But if
right,
I get into a room with someone and the face is just like, okay, no, they don't speak to you, they
right.
don't take your hand. How do people like me, job seekers, or high school students, anybody that is
Yeah,
looking for to better themselves or elevate, how do you deal with the job interview etiquette? And
wow.
what should we look for, and how should we kind of do if we
Right.
have like a bubbly personality?
Yeah. So that's a good question. So if it's a virtual interview, I'm gonna give out a couple
Mm,
little salt makers
mm,
here tonight, okay? But if it's a virtual interview, then more than likely you're going to know who you're interviewing with, especially if you're being recruited, right? If
mhm,
you're talking with a recruiter, that recruiter is going to tell you the name of the person that you're interviewing with. Go
mm,
research the person, look them up, see
mm,
what they like, go stalk them, Facebook,
mhm,
Instagram, LinkedIn, right? Go see what they like. So then when you enter into the room, the virtual space,
mhm,
make the connection, right?
mm,
If they are if they are a clown in the circus, talk about, man, I found the greatest clown shoes on Amazon. They were like, oh, really? I'll wear clown shoes, right? So do your research, right? If it is an in-person interview and maybe you don't know who the person is, but if you are interviewing with a female, like you, I love your top. Oh my goodness, where did you get that from? That is the perfect color, right? If it's male, oh my goodness, I love the colors in your tie. My dad used to have a tie like that, right? Who doesn't love a compliment? A compliment will break down a wall every time.
Now that's good to know. And I know in the past, even in my younger years, like trying to get that first corporate job when you're coming out of college.
Yeah.
I never knew things like that. I would be so timid and scared to even, open my mouth, because what if I say something, dumb or stupid, or I can't pronounce, certain words? I would always feel like that.
Yeah.
I would always feel like that. And I would never want to say, oh, I love your hoodie that you have on. I have one just like it. I would never would have thought to do that.
Right. And then, you just mentioned something. You don't want to mispronounce anyone's name. So you go in and you say, oh my gosh, I love your name, but I don't know how to pronounce it. How do you pronounce your name? Because I want to make sure I get it right throughout the interview. Right? I don't want to, sound crazy throughout the interview. And by the time I leave, you're mad at me because I didn't pronounce your name right. So it's about being transparent, right? If you're nervous about the interview, tell them, I am so nervous. I have been nervous all day, right? But I'm happy to finally be here. And they'll say, oh, don't be nervous, calm down. It's just us, right? Being transparent, giving a compliment, bringing both of you all back to the same level. So
I love that. This is me thinking about, that dream job, because that brings me to my next question. Okay. You help women get that dream job, that six-figure job.
Right.
How can we master these interviews at these companies? And I feel like, we're trying to interview for a six-figure job. Like I said, I feel intimidated every time I get into an interview. I feel very intimidated because I'm like, okay, I'm trying to get to where you all are. And I feel like that little girl that is just out of college trying to get that job. And I have been on the opposite side where I have interviewed young people that were looking to work with me or work, I don't want to say under me, but alongside of me as an assistant. So I've been on both ends of the spectrum. So how can we as women that are go-getters, that are passionate, how can we get that dream job?
Yeah. So that's a great question. For one, it's kind of like Allen Iverson. It's just practice. It's practice. It's practice. The interview is practice. And I keep saying that over and over again. It's practice. I host master classes where people can come and join, and I'll teach, how to answer those interview questions, like really according to what the companies are listening for and what they're looking for. I teach the art of networking. So I teach those in my master class. But again, it goes back to practice. Once you get, everything out of your head and onto paper, right? And get out of your own way, it's just practice. Because you know how our parents used to tell us, you need to know your ABCs like you know the back of your hand. You need to know your experience. You need to know those successes, those failures, how you overcame. You need to know those things like you know the back of your hand. So I'll take the Allen Iverson way out and just say it's practice.
And it is when you are going to these interviews. I feel like sometimes we get the recruiters, they call you and do the phone screening. And I'm nervous even with the phone screening. I'm like, okay, when they say, well, tell me a little bit about yourself, even in a in-person interview, in a virtual interview. And I'm like, okay, what all do you want to know? Like, what should you tell employers that ask you those specific questions, like, well, tell me about yourself. You don't want to tell everything because I'm a talker. I can go on and on about myself, but what should you specifically tell an employer
Yeah.
when they ask you that question?
Yeah. So what I will say is to that, and I've gotten caught up with that too. I promise you. I that question. I talked about, oh, I pass your building all the time and I just would love to work for your company. What?
Mhm.
Right? Like,
Yes.
no, that is not it. What I will say is from the first interview, just know that you're being watched, you're being listened to, and everything you say is being recorded. So the interview starts from the beginning. So it's not all about your personal. You don't want to get caught up because they can be friendly and make
Yes.
like and make you feel like they want to know about your whole entire family, and they don't want to know that. They want to know about your work experience. They want to know why you're interviewing with them. They want to know what makes you qualified to be on the phone with them that day. That's where your conversation has to be and has to remain.
And I agree, with that. Like you said, we can get caught up talking about ourselves. And I might think, okay, well, you want to know about me? Let me just add a little razzle dazzle to it. But
Yeah.
you are right. We got to stay on topic. I'm here to inquire about the job, but
Right.
we can kind of condense that down. I know another question I always get, and I think I've asked this in interviews when I was trying to hire somebody, was where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? And that question always gets me. I
Yeah.
don't want to say the wrong thing,
Yeah.
even if it's not a job that I know I'm not going to stay at a long time. How should one answer a question like that in an interview?
Right. That's a great question. I love to get that question. And that's another opportunity to be transparent, right? In an interview, you want to talk about growth. And let me put a pin here. You are interviewing this company the same way that they are interviewing you. So, want to talk about, I want to be in a place where there's growth, there's opportunity for advancement, right? I don't know what your average time span is for this position, whether it's 18 months, whether it's 2 years, whether it's 3 years, but whenever that opportunity presents itself, I want to make sure that I'm in a place where I can take advantage of the opportunity, right? And so then you can turn the tables on them, right? What are the opportunities for advancement if I take this position? So put them in the hot seat, right? What opportunities are there for professional development if I take this position? Right? So just remember, you're interviewing that company just as much as they're interviewing you. Yeah, but be honest, be transparent, and you don't have to say, "Oh, I want to go into this position," but you just want to talk about growth and advancement because that's what we all want. Yeah.
And I thank you for those tips because a lot of people don't know. A lot
Yeah.
of people are sometimes, and I say even myself, I use myself as an example.
Yeah.
When employers ask you, "Do you have any questions for us?" And there's always that one question, okay, about the salary.
Yeah.
That is that one question, but sometimes I feel like I don't ask the right questions. Like you just stated, is there opportunity for growth from this position?
Right.
Like you said, putting them in a hot seat. And
Right.
sometimes if I do ask that, they're kind of taken aback. They're like,
Right.
it's like Mary, you want to answer that question? Like they don't know. So
Right.
and then it's like, oh, all right, yeah,
Yeah.
answer that question. So I do get that. I do get that a lot. Especially like that last question when they ask, is there anything else for that you want to know?
Right. Right.
What other questions in an interview should one ask employers?
Yeah.
What is another question that we can put them in a hot seat?
Right. So I think in this day and age with the George Floyds, and I'm from Memphis, and so
Mhm.
now the world is kind of having a conversation around Tyree Nichols, right?
Mhm.
And so diversity and inclusion is a hot ticket right now. It's a hot topic with companies and corporations. And so one thing, and a lot of companies are writing out this whole diversity and inclusion um,
Mhm.
segment or section, in their policy. But you want to ask, what is the culture of your company,
Mm, mm,
right? How do I fit into the culture of your company?
mm, mhm,
Are there any moments of what are you doing to improve the culture of your company?
mm.
And I think that's huge because
Yes.
I feel like this is my opinion. Don't
Mhm.
come for me, but I feel like a lot of companies it's good on paper, but what are you doing in real life? How
Yes.
are you advancing? How are you opening up opportunities for people who are of different cultures
Mhm.
within your company? So I think that's
Mhm.
a great question.
And I like that question. Coming from a person that has worked for, you know, I say, how can I put this? Um, all black workplace,
Yeah, say that.
urban workplace.
Yeah.
How should one transition if they are, applying to different companies that have, a diversified group? Because sometimes I feel like, not shrinking myself, but which you
Mhm.
shouldn't do anyway. But I have never worked in an environment of a, I guess, more Caucasian field
Mhm.
company. I've
Right.
always done, more black, or maybe it's like maybe two or three
Yeah.
Caucasians in the
Yeah.
workplace, and
Mhm.
that's it. Everybody else, African Americans, we were the majority,
Right.
at that specific station. So
Mhm.
how should one, what would you say, how should they transition from, an urban
Yeah.
workspace to a
Yeah.
more diversified.
So I'll say this:
Mhm.
work is work.
Mm.
If you're good, you're good. If you have the skill set, you
Mhm.
have the skill set, right? If you're working in an urban environment, you still should be professional. You
Mhm.
still should
Mhm.
carry yourself in a certain way. Just because you're working in an urban environment doesn't mean that there's a lax mindset, right? So
Mhm.
if you do the work, you have the skill set, you can go anywhere, right? And you
Yes.
take that same professionalism, that same mindset to any company. I don't care how many black, white, red, or green. If you do the work, you've done the work, and
Mm.
you should be compensated accordingly. That's
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, I agree. And I want to talk about, when we go from, being more diversified. And
Yeah,
I know that your company talks a lot about networking, and you
yeah.
stated earlier you did a lot of networking. So tell me tips on networking and how should we network? Because I feel like a lot of times we do not know how to network properly,
Right,
and we
right,
don't know the right people who to network with. So,
right.
what are some tips that you can share with us about networking?
Yeah. So that's a great question. I think I would initially say get ready, stay ready, so
Mm,
that you don't have to get ready later.
that part. That part.
It's be ready, stay ready, so you don't have to get ready,
Mhm,
right? So when the opportunity presents itself, when that president walks in and they are giving a speech to your department,
mhm,
and after the speech is over, now here it is, after the speech is over and everybody is ready to leave and go to lunch, you don't leave with everybody. And your friends are like, girl, come on, let's go such and such before they close. I'll meet up with you. That's what you say.
mhm,
I'll meet
mhm,
up with y'all. Wait, I'll be there in a minute. You hang back. You introduce yourself. You go up and introduce yourself.
mm,
Throw the fear out the window, throw the ego out the window. You go up and you introduce yourself. Hi,
mm,
my name is Felicia. This is what I currently do for the company, right? But
mhm,
this is where I see myself in the future. How
mhm,
do I get on your schedule? How do I get some time on your calendar so that I can learn more about your journey?
mm,
All leaders want to talk about their journey because
mm,
whether they are president, vice president, or director, they didn't start there. They had
mhm,
to start somewhere at a different level, a lower level, and move
mhm,
their way up. Leaders love talking about themselves. Leaders love talking about their successes and how they got to where they are. Get some time with them and learn what it is they did to get to where they are and see if they'll be willing to share their blueprint, right? So that's my number one tip. I tell everybody that. Don't hang back.
Yes.
Give a card. My name, and this is it. My name is, I currently do this for the company, but I see myself doing this in the future. How
Mm.
is it on your calendar?
I love that. I love that. And I have an experience. When you just said, hey, if people telling you, hey, come on, let's go, it's time to eat, we're not trying to talk to nobody else. Let's go. And I have been in situations whereas I did hang back and I did network, and still to this day I keep in contact with those certain people in
Yeah.
media. How do you deal with, and this has happened before, when you have those bosses, even though you work for the same company, a supervisor maybe over you, but they kind of block you from even networking with someone else inside the company that is higher up? How do you deal with that, or what advice would you tell women
Yeah.
that have dealt with that and still currently deal with that? How do
Yeah.
you kind of maneuver around that?
You go outside your company
Mm.
because your company is not the only, and forgive me, don't come for me. But you look for mentors outside of your company. You look for mentors, maybe within your friend zone, because your friend may be a director, but because they're your friend, you don't approach them in a professional way.
Mm.
You continue to keep that friendship, right? But you never
Mhm.
cross the line to say, dang, my friend is a director and I've never really talked to her about
Mhm.
all of
Mhm.
it, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I think at that point you seek out mentorship outside of your department, maybe
Mhm.
outside of your company. For me, when I was working that job in the call center, it was about seeking out mentors outside of the department that I worked in, because
Mhm.
I wanted to know, that was career exploration for me. I wanted to know what else, what other departments are at this company? What else can I do? Right. So then I would seek conversations, even if it's not mentorship, but conversations with people outside of my department, because they may be doing something that I could easily transfer my skills to. Right.
Mhm.
It's about, if you're feeling blocked where you are, it's about seeking mentorships and conversations outside of your department, outside of your company, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you did touch on that, because um at my old company, it was always like that. You couldn't talk to the higher ups. It was
Yeah.
always someone, or kind of blocking
Yeah.
me to get to that point, or he didn't allow me to be around certain people in a
Yeah.
sense, and I had to go out. Like you said, I've done that before. I had to go outside of the comfort
Mhm.
zone. I had to
Mhm.
do that to get to a certain person within the company.
Yep.
It's sad that we deal with things like that, and a lot of women do, and they don't talk about it. They don't really, they don't talk about it. But I've always said, I'm going to use my voice and my
Yeah.
experiences
Yeah.
to shine light on this,
Yeah.
especially in the corporate world.
And you know what I
Especially
hate?
in the corporate world.
You know what
Mhm.
I hate? When it's us holding us back.
and
Oh,
that and that's what it was with me. It was us
yeah.
was blocking,
Yeah.
kept blocking. And
Yeah.
I never understood that. I feel like everybody else in different races, they'll look out for their own. But when it comes to us, it's a fear of, the older people, older than us,
Right. Better.
have that fear, like, oh, I gotta stop this. I gotta nip this in the bud before it even
Yeah.
starts. And I
Right.
and that's something that I feel as though in the workplace, even when you go in interviews and things, it's always us trying to block. And I
Yeah.
never understood that.
And
And
that's why,
still don't.
I'm here. That's why I created
Mhm.
this company, because when I was going through everything I was going through, I knew that I wasn't going through it for me. I knew I was having this experience so that I can help other people.
Mhm.
And that's why I created this company. And I am trying my best to reach the masses because I've created the blueprint and I want to say, let me help you, right? Because like you said, no one is coming to us. I didn't learn this in college. I didn't learn this in high school. When I graduated from college, the Career Center wasn't working for me. And I'm a graduate of the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. And they had a great Career Center, but I didn't know how to make the Career Center work for me. Right? So, yeah, so a lot of us don't know, didn't know, and still don't know.
And I like how you touched on, like, in college, I feel like me myself graduating from Alabama State University, I feel like the students now, and I think it's with Generation Z, they have they have so much more than we had when we were in college and even in high school. I feel like now people like that have their own businesses like you, which you help prepare students for the workforce, for more. And I never had that when I was coming up. It was always, okay, your parents, they prepare you or whatever. But really, it was like we had to prepare ourselves. Nobody had businesses that really kind of catered to us, especially our skin tone. So when we talk about students and how to prepare them for the workforce, what advice do you give to students that you work with on a daily basis, how to prepare them if they don't go to school, or even if they go to school and they still want to get a job? How do you prepare them?
Yeah, so it's interesting you asked that question. I've had a conversation with several leaders within the HBCU community, and the conversations have been, a lot of companies and corporations will come to campus to recruit, but there's a large majority of students that can't get past the first and second interview, right? Because they don't know how to interview, or they don't have the experience, and because they don't have the work experience, they don't know how to translate their school experience into a job skill, right? To talk about in an interview. And so that's where I come in. I do group sessions, virtually, in person, and I teach exactly what we've been talking about tonight. But I go into, like, great detail about exactly what they should be doing. And so a lot of what we talked about tonight, I'm teaching them, but we go a step further. But I have a passion for helping those HBCUs and those students who are graduating but have no idea how to transition into the workforce. Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel I graduated, I don't want to tell my age, but I graduated 14 years ago from Alabama State. And so I think for me, in my own experience, I didn't know how to transition from that. I came out of college, didn't really have a job, but the intern that I had allowed me to still intern and still come back because I could not get find a job. It is very hard when you're coming out of college, especially at a HBCU, and you are in the arts field. Like, I was a communications major, radio, TV. So there weren't a lot of jobs open. They wanted students that had experience, and I did not know how to kind of interview when it came to those jobs. I would apply, but then there would be nothing. There would be no interview. Even if you got an interview, you won't make it to the second round. And I would get so discouraged, even as an adult. I feel like, okay, my experiences, and I was a manager, supervisor at a company. And I can't get past the first interview, or I can't get past the second interview. And I always kind of felt like, is there something wrong with me? And I know I aced the interview, I'm bubbly, I'm, all of that. And I feel defeated. And I don't know if you had ever experienced that, coming up and getting these jobs and now preparing others how to make it past the first and second interview. Do you ever kind of talk to students or adults that
Mhm.
feel like that feel like I just want to give up. It's nothing moving. Like what advice would you give someone like me
Yeah.
or anybody else like they kind of feel stagnant
Yeah.
in a sense?
So I graduated in 94. Proud.
Mm.
94.
And
Um,
don't look like it.
thank you again. But like you just said, there was a different time,
Mhm.
right? I didn't know, internet was just coming about and all of that. So I didn't know how to research companies.
Mhm.
So for someone like you, for a student coming out of college right now, it's about research. It's about LinkedIn. It's about making sure your
Mhm.
profile is clean, right?
Mhm.
It's about
Mhm.
making sure that they know who you are on your LinkedIn. It's about making sure
Mhm.
your LinkedIn matches your resume, right? It's
Mhm.
about
Mhm.
making sure your social media is cleaned up because that is the first place that a lot of companies will go. Because when we interview, we're taking our representative in the room. They're going to your social media to see who is this person for real.
Mhm.
Making
Mhm.
sure that everything matches,
Mhm.
right? It's a different day and time. For students coming out of college. And when I came out, I majored in human services, social work, right? So, and
Mhm.
I didn't know. I worked my intern. I'm kind of like you. I continued
Mhm.
internship after graduation. And I had sorors who were coming out, engineers and chemists, and
Mhm. Mhm.
how did they, so for a long time, I think if I can be honest, I felt like I wasn't even worthy. Like I didn't
Mm.
major in
Yes.
major. I should have majored in something else,
Yes.
because I didn't come out making 80, $90,000 a year.
Mhm.
But experience has taught me, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
those moments of need, those moments of wanting to change my life. And here's another thing, those moments of wanting more out of life.
Mm. Yes. Yes.
Those moments of wanting more out of life and not feeling ashamed to say I
Mm.
want more.
Mm.
Don't feel ashamed to say you want more. Sometimes the way we were raised, we may feel like, that's being boastful or that's being greedy. It's not. It's wanting a different lifestyle for yourself and doing whatever you have to do to make it happen. Right?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
yeah.
I love that wanting more out of life.
Yeah.
And, Felicia, you have been so diligent in creating your company
Yeah.
to give back to the community, to help people master getting more out of life.
Yeah.
Did you ever imagine in your wildest dreams that you will be here? You would be right here with the focus group, helping people along the way, getting that dream job. Did you ever in your wildest dreams think that you'll be here?
I did not. But I've always the core of who I am wants to help people. I've always been that way since I was a little girl. And
Mhm.
so now I've figured out, people are like, I just want to figure out my purpose in life.
Mhm.
This is my purpose. I'm walking in my purpose right now. So
Mm.
I'm helping people to change their lives. I'm helping them to come out of a depression. I'm helping them to transition into a workforce to put food on the table, clothes on their back, roof over their head. I'm helping them to do that. And so, did I ever imagine that I would be in this space? No. Am I happy to be here? Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I love, oh my gosh, I love it. I feel like you have really preached my whole life when it comes to, in the workforce and wanting more out of life
Yeah.
and really trying to figure out your purpose. And
Yeah.
I feel like you have done that. You worked at the Fortune 500
Yeah.
companies. Now you are an entrepreneur helping people get to that position.
Yeah.
And ultimately, maybe they will even start their own business
Right.
to give back to the community to help the people like me along the way. And
Yeah.
I feel like you're very much an inspiration
Thank
to
you.
our community, to entrepreneurs, because I know it is not easy,
It
but
is.
you make it look easy. But you make it look easy.
Thank you. Thank you. You know what? I keep going every day. And you're
Mhm,
right, it's not easy, but I know that where I'm going is way bigger than where I am
mhm.
right now. So,
Mm.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
have to ask this question. I like to, have fun
Okay.
on this podcast.
All
What
right.
is a typical day for you like? What is a typical day? I mean, like for a CEO.
Okay.
What is a typical day for you?
Oh my gosh. Okay. That's interesting. So I wake up normally around 5 o'clock. I try to get on the treadmill in the morning.
Mhm.
On the opposite days that I'm not on the treadmill, I do work out with the trainer because it's very important whether you're an entrepreneur or an employee trying to promote and improve your life, you have to show up and you got to show up a certain way, right?
Mhm.
And if
Mhm.
you don't show up a certain way, they can tell, right?
Yes.
I work out in the mornings. I pray. I talk to God. God is everything in my life.
Yes.
And I have told him over and over again, Lord, you put me on whatever platform, I will never deny you. So he is first and foremost in my life.
Mm.
I get my 16-year-old to school in the morning. I come back home. On my drive home, though, I do call my best friend and business partner. And we kiki on the phone. Kiki is laughing. It's very important.
Yeah, yes.
I'm telling you,
It kind of listen. It puts a pep in your step.
it really
It
does.
does. It kind of like, oh, girl, got some
Girl.
tell you, but it's kind of like, okay, now I got my tea. I got my fuel for the day. Now I
Right.
can get to work. I can, be Felicia. I can
Exactly.
be me.
Exactly. So I come home and I'm on the computer. So I have a team of virtual assistants who work for me. They work for me overseas. So they are in the Philippines. And they've been working for me for over a year. And so we kind of talk about, our goals for the day, our tasks for the day. I don't know how this happened, but I build websites for small businesses. I help people start small businesses from conception to
Mhm.
the end, so they can bring it to life. And so we talk about clients that we have, and then I have different contracts. I have contracts with the school system here, with the city of Memphis here, with a couple of colleges, and so we make sure that I'm prepared for those presentations,
Mhm.
any keynote engagements that I may have. I make sure that I'm prepared for that. I normally shut off around 1:30. I pick my kid up from school. If he has baseball, I'm at a baseball game. And when I'm at
Mhm.
a baseball game, I am there. I am present. My phone is away
Mm.
because I'm that mom. And that is the freedom that I get of being an entrepreneur. Now, when we get home, then I'm back on the computer a lot of times. And I may work till like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And then I may watch 30 minutes of a show and then I'm in the bed.
Wow.
Do it all over
And
again.
you do it all over again,
Yeah.
and still have that gorgeous face, honey. And I feel like, you wear a lot of hats.
I
Because
do.
when you were saying I have this at this time, it's very well structured.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh wow, yeah, she is busy. And when you say I really respect how you are that mom. Like you
Yeah.
kind of turn off
Yeah.
your busy life
Yeah.
for the business side,
Right.
and then because being a mom is 24/7,
Right.
but it's like hey, I don't bring my phone, I don't have that can wait after my son's game, then I'll go back to it. But I loved how you said that. I kind of just turned that off because I know it must be hard to juggle everything at
Yeah.
once.
It is. It is. But I make sure that I am open with my baby because he's the baby. My older children are older, but I
Mhm.
make sure I'm open with him to say, just know that everything I'm doing for you and your brothers, right?
Mm.
All the hard work I'm putting in, all the meetings that I take, all the conversations that I have while I'm in the car and we're driving home, and you can listen to my conversations. It's because I'm trying to create a better life for you, not only you, but the children that will come from you later on in life. I have three sons, so I'm raising kings. I'm raising somebody's husbands, somebody's
Mm.
fathers, right? So I
Mm.
want to make sure that I'm their first female role model, and I want to make sure that they understand why I'm working so hard, right? Why I have to take moments away. But yeah, it's important. All of it is
Mm.
important.
And I love it. And you do it so eloquently, and I love it. And like I said, you are such an inspiration to
Thank
so
you.
many women out there.
Oh, wow.
And I really enjoyed this interview because you touched on a lot of things, gave me some hope in
Yeah.
my endeavors, and I know that you give hope to so many women each and every day in your work in the school system. It does not go unnoticed. And I always like to ask this, and I haven't asked this in a while.
Okay.
As we, in this interview, what is one thing or one aspiration or quote that you live by daily that gives you that drive to keep doing what you're doing?
Yep. So at the end of every presentation, and this is a quote that I live by, and it's by Les Brown, and it says, you have to be willing to do what other people aren't willing to do so that you could have a life that other people will not have.
Wow. Mm.
And that's it. That's
Woo.
and I have lived my life. I do those things that other people won't do. I talk to those people that other people are afraid to talk to. I get up when other people are still sleeping.
Mm.
And I,
Mm.
and I and I love what I do right now. And I love it so much because, like you said at the beginning of the interview, this is my baby. All that
Mhm.
I do is for me. It's not for another company. It's for me.
Mhm.
And if
Mhm.
I don't do it, it won't get done. If I don't hunt, I don't eat.
Ooh, if I don't hunt, I don't eat. That, oh my gosh, that is gonna be my quote of the week. If I don't hunt, I don't eat. That is wow. But that should be everybody's quote. If I don't hunt, I don't eat.
That's it.
Mm.
That's it.
Mm. Felicia, I have enjoyed this interview.
Thank
And
you.
before we leave, please drop all of your social media. How can people get in contact with you? How can people sign up for the master class? How can we follow the focus group? Because I know I'm gonna have more questions after
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
How can we follow you and get in contact with you?
Awesome. So my website is www.thefocusgroupbyfelicia.com. And, I turned that by Felicia, I tried to turn it into a positive because for years, thanks to Friday, it was such a negative connotation. By Felicia, right?
Yes.
So now it is the focus group by Felicia, right?
Mm.
But that is my website. And on my website, there is a link, I believe, at the top where you can sign up for a master class. And because I'm turning 50, I am running a sale for the month of June where I'm taking $50 off. So this is a great time. And I will be hosting one every Tuesday in the month of June. And then they probably won't come along for another 3 months. So take advantage. Let's see, on Instagram, I am always _ Felicia. Um, Facebook, I believe I'm Felecia Higgs Walker. I'm on LinkedIn, Felecia H. Walker. The focus group is on LinkedIn. And whatever you see about me on one, you'll see about me on all. Right? I believe in family, friends, God, and that's what I do. Right? That's who I am. And I'm always talking about how to improve your life. And yeah, that's it. That's me everywhere.
Well, there you have it, folks. Make sure you go to her website, sign up for her master class, and I got to get on there as well. And just thank you. I just want to thank you so much for just taking the time out of your busy schedule of being a CEO, a mom, and everything in Memphis. Thank you so much, Felicia, for coming on. But this is not going to be the last time that we see you because you got to come back. You are now family. We sisters. We're part of the same sisterhood, but you are now a part of the Sip and Sit podcast family. So, and we're gonna do this again.
Yes.
We are going to do.
Just call me. We're locked in now as a kid.
Ain't no switching up.
Ain't no switching up.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to the Sip and Sip podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe the Sip and Sip podcast, the Sip and Sit on YouTube. Follow us at Sip and Sip Podcast on Instagram. And I'm coming back with more interviews and more shows. So thank you so much. And we'll see you in the next video.
Hey, Millie. See you later.
Bye.